Women of Reddit. What's the biggest man-child red flag? Story 1. They try something once, and when it doesn't immediately work for them, they wallow in self-pity rather than try again. I can't ask a girl out, I got rejected once and it hurts too bad. I can't exercise, I ran a mile once and it didn't do anything. I tried to learn a foreign language once, but it took too long. All actual quotes from the man-children in my life. Story 2. Tantrums. My ex broke up with me over the phone at 1:30 a.m. a few days before Christmas because I told him I was just going to hang out at my place that day and have a bath, do my nails and face mask, girly shit like that. Apparently that's rude because our want for chill days away from each other should align. He was also scandalized when I said, LOL, okay, and refused to take him back. No thanks, crazy ass. I'm good. Story 3. How involved his mommy is in his life. Good relationship with mom, keeps in touch, family holidays, healthy boundaries, maybe calls for advice on when cooking something complicated, or WTF to do with silk. That's okay. Mom stops by the house all the time, stocks his fridge, brings him meals, does his laundry, buys his clothes, cleans his house, and has him over for dinner 3 nights a week. Not so good. Bad. Mommy is telling him who he should and shouldn't date, what jobs he should have, what he should be doing with his money, or still holding the apron strings after, say, 21. Worst ever. Other red flags: refusal to learn basic adult concepts like how to cook, clean, launder, or maintain things, and claiming it's someone else's job. Constantly shifting blame, living in a house that looks like it was decorated by a 15-year-old, inability to hold a conversation about anything more serious than TV, video games, or movies. Story 4. When the guy is in denial about calling anything you do together a date, but when you ask if what you're doing is a date or bring up the notion that it could be something other than a casual hookup, you are suddenly a psychotic stage 5 clinger who wants to get married and have a million babies on a strict timeline. Jeez, dude. I just asked if we were on a date because it wasn't clear. I wasn't asking you to frickin' marry me. If you have to ask, that's a red flag by itself. Story 5. I know a guy who constantly bitches about being single. He's 33. He'll crush on one girl for like 6 months without showing her any sign of interest, finally work up the nerve to ask her out, rejected, and pine after her for another year or so, hoping she'll change her mind. Despite being objectively very unattractive, not having a career, relying on friends to rent him space well below market value, he only ever aims for girls that are an 8 or higher. He has ridiculous criteria too, refuses to date anyone taller, and he's like 5'7", or older than him, wants to marry into money, expects his future wife to be a homemaker raising their 5 to 8 children, thinks any sex other than missionary position with the lights off is gross. He's had girls interested in him before, girls who were out of his league, and never pursued anything because they were a couple years older or a couple inches taller than him. Yeah, he's a complete man-child, and I'm positive he's gonna die alone. Story 6. Something I haven't mentioned yet is finances. Men children typically either don't work or else they work part-time at a minimum wage job. They'll call in on weekends because they want to party and they're just too lazy to actually put an effort to work more. Unless they're rich and are used to daddy buying everything for them, they never have much money. They're always broke when it comes time to pay rent or the electric bill, but they mysteriously always have money to buy video games or grass. Story 7. Throws a tantrum when they don't get their way, like a child screaming in a store because their mom wouldn't buy them a toy, so they never grew out of that. Only acts nice because they want something in return. Everything has strings and an underwritten contract. Known and read of a few breakups that happened because it turns out after they moved out of their parents' place, they treated their partner like they were their new mother or father. Story 8. Being proud of not reading. Story 9. Won't put up with some unpleasant shopping trips. I know a guy that throws the biggest fit if his wife goes off their shopping list or wants to make a stop somewhere else. She will go with him to Best Buy while he looks at video games, but when she wants to stop at Bath & Body Works right next door, he freaks out and complains the second they walk in the door about how bored he is and pouts throughout the whole trip. Story 10. Make me a sandwich. Do your own bloody snacks. This is only okay if the other person is already making a sandwich and you're fully committed to paying that sandwich back. Story 11. Can't keep a relationship going because they are more in love with the fantasy version of the girl they were with, so whenever a problem actually comes along, instead of working through it, they get upset and bail because she wasn't who he thought she was, and he doesn't want to actually put work into anything. Story 12. Oh my god, I almost married one. Here, have a list. Forces himself to dislike something just because you like it. Ever see a grown man grit or grind his teeth while playing a video game you encouraged him to try? I have. Fussy eater. will not eat anything that isn't pizza or burgers and has zero interest in broadening his culinary horizons. I was sympathetic at first, but he aggressively refused all of my suggestions. Owns various books on get-rich-quick schemes. I know, I probably should have left right then and there. Spontaneous vehicle purchases. Owns a classic car from high school that he refuses to part with but never drives it, works on it, or does anything with it except keep it insured and have difficulty finding places to park it. He had this facade of being handy, but every time he would set out to do something handy, he needed someone else there to help him. I need James to come over and help me with the brakes on my car. I called my dad to help with the tile backsplash in our kitchen, etc., etc., etc. And then they would just end up doing it for him. Make fun of the things you like. Pay attention to this. Seriously, a normal guy should be able to appreciate that you like things, even if they're different from the things that he likes. He outright mocked me for enjoying certain video games that weren't the kill over loot instant gratification variety. A man appreciates and respects your choices. A child points and laughs at the things you like. Wants the house perfectly spotless, but will never do anything to get off his lazy ass to help with that. Works a part-time job and refuses to consider trying to go back to school or do really anything to get him out of that situation that isn't whining about not getting a promotion after working sorting mail for nearly 10 years. Honestly, liberal arts degree. Such entitlement. Wow. Wants a dog, gets a dog, does absolutely fuck all with taking care of and cleaning up after it and training the dog. Doesn't want to have kids yet, because then he'll have to share his toys. Seriously, he's not being funny when he says shit like this. He's legitimately a greedy, selfish man baby, and you should not procreate with him. Learn from my almost mistake. Run. Buys expensive things right after you tell him not to buy those things and then expects it to just be okay. Always talks about having a ton of money coming in. Truth is, he has no money coming in, just entitlement issues up the ass. He wants to dazzle you with cash he doesn't actually have. Wants to become a lawyer, has absolutely no interest in actually putting in any effort into becoming a lawyer. In truth, he actually just wants to argue more and get away with saying stupid shit in front of a judge. This is not the kind of person who becomes a lawyer. Any effing time he playfully whines about something, but I want to see X movie, not Y. But I want a new one of these because mine's not working properly, etc., etc., etc. And then playfully laughs. Pro tip, it's not fake whining to be funny, it's actual whining disguised as fake funny whining. Just stay away from any and all whining. Having his mother appear on your doorstep at random effing times to harass you after you dump him and he kicks himself out. That one was fun. Not. They were looking in my effing windows to see whether I was home. Sending harassing texts and emails after you dump him saying he's entitled to spousal support and you paying off all of his debt that he accrued without your input, even though he's left you with 2 pets and a house you can barely afford on your own. That one was actually fun, forwarding everything to my family lawyer to discredit him. Really, he did it all himself. His relatives post vaguely on their Facebook about how they're happy and their marriage is whatever and would never treat their spouse like that. Translation, man baby has been crying to entire family. You're the scrum of the earth. How dare you find fault in this perfect cinnamon roll? Probably the biggest one. Talks a lot about stuff he wants, never actually puts forward any effort into actually getting it. Never. He just expects it to magically happen without his input at all. Everything you do annoys him. Literally everything. How dare you listen to music while you cook or clean? How dare you soak potting soil in the sink for plant pots? It's so dirty even though it takes less than a minute to wipe up. How dare you get back into painting? That's money I can't spend on pizza. How dare you order off the dinner menu? Never mind that I go for lunch twice a week with my friend Kyle. It's so expensive when I eat out with you, maybe twice a year. If you upset his happy norm by existing, you're sure to hear some whining about it. We were together nearly 5 years. I'm sure I'll come up with more. Where the f do you find these people? Story 13. He doesn't know how to do a load of washing. Story 14. They'll always find some way to push the blame onto others. It's never their fault. Edit, read through what some of your comments said, and I have to agree that in general, this applies to both men and women. Maybe my cat. Story 15. Monster Energy logos in his back window. I don't understand what it is with that logo. Why do people put it everywhere? Maybe I missed something? Story 16. Incredibly irresponsible. Puts off things indefinitely until someone else does it for them. Probably the type to complain to their mother, girlfriend, wife is a nag because they have to resort to that to get him to do shit. Story 17. When they're all over a girl, then she rejects them and suddenly she is a grotesque demon. Sour grapes has been a thing since antiquity. Story 18. No mention of still playing with Lego. I think I'm safe. If someone tells you to not play with Lego, they're not worth it. You don't need that kind of negativity in your life. Story 19. Doesn't offer to help clean up after you cook for him. Goes straight to the couch. Story 20. Filthy apartment. Floors never swept or washed. Toilet smells like hell's urinal. Piles of dirty laundry. Few or no kitchen utensils. Garbage hasn't been taken out in who knows how long. Kitchen littered with Gatorade bottles and fast food or frozen meal containers. Nasty sheets and posters of scantily clad models and or Scarface movie posters as the only decorations. Story 21. Still holding on to a lie even though he's been caught. I'm holding the truth to his face, but he still denies it. Damn, he could have become a politician. Seriously. I caught my ex red-handed multiple times stealing my pain meds and he would still try to lie his way out of things. Just switch the pills with birth control or laxatives. That'll stop him. Story 22. One that I haven't seen mentioned yet is pickup artistry. Covers all manner of insecurity, immaturity, and lack of personal growth by doubling down on objectifying women. See, not so bad to get rejected by a girl if she's just one of 20 meat stocks you're pursuing at a time. Basically, anything from the red pill community. These people think they're some special enlightened class, but if I catch them using that kind of language or pickup strategy, it's an immediate red flag. Here's a thought, red pillars. If you weren't such insufferable maybe you wouldn't have to overcompensate for your 95% rejection rate. Story 23. Oh, here we go. I had a roommate named Fergus or something like that. He moved in with me and one other girl in August. About November, we noticed that Fergus, while using every dish in the house, had never actually washed anything. The other girl and I had been taking turns but not talking about it since our schedules were so opposite, so we'd never realized Fergus was such a POS. But then she went out of state for a couple of months and I quickly told Fergus playtime was over. It was his turn to do the dishes. He had the good grace to apologize for not getting around to it and mentioned that if he'd ever seen the sink really full, he'd of course have done some dishes, but we just washed his stuff before he had a chance to. Okay, whatever. I did the dishes from a small Thanksgiving dinner and then I left the kitchen to Fergus. I used paper plates and cups and plastic silverware for the next month. I didn't really cook, just microwaved. It was finals anyways. And Fergus proceeded to use dishes without washing them until every cupboard was empty and every glass, plate, bowl, cup, fork, etc. was crusted and filthy in a pile. He clearly expected me to cave if he made a big enough mess. The other girl would have, within a week. I am made of sterner stuff. I fully intended to wait however long it took. Christmas Eve morning, after 30-plus days of this bullshit, I awake to the astonishing sound of the kitchen being cleaned. There's water running, plates clinking, dishwashing going. I walk out in amazement and find a complete stranger cleaning my kitchen. She looks up at me in a somewhat unfriendly manner, and Fergus pipes up from the living room, where he's sitting motionless on his phone. Hey, this is my mom. She came to pick me up for Christmas. I laughed obnoxiously. I laughed at the man-child who got his mommy to drive 4 hours to do his dishes and drive him home when he was 25 years old. She defended him. Nothing's that funny. Oh, yeah, this is, I said and went back into my room. She mopped the floor and then they left. After that, I basically told him that he was going to pay a service or pay me to clean the kitchen once a week because he obviously couldn't be trusted with the level of responsibility you'd give a 13-year-old. His mom sent him an extra $75 a month for the rest of the lease. Story 24. The guys who not only can't cook, clean, or do basic adult domestic tasks, but they're weirdly proud of that fact to the point of bragging about it. I'm not impressed that you're an adult and can't manage to take care of yourself, bruh. Get your shit together. Story 25. Oh boy, do I have a list for you from my first serious boyfriend. His mom made his lunch for work every day. PB&J, peanut butter cups, and little Debbie cakes, just sugar basically. Wanted to go out to breakfast every Sunday, but wouldn't get out of bed until I showed up at his house to wake him up. Flipped out if I didn't text him every morning before I went to class and called him every night before I went to bed. No, he couldn't be the one to call or text me. That was my job. Punched inanimate objects when he was mad, complained that I leaked bodily fluids on his sheets because he didn't want mommy to see them when she did his laundry. And this last one is really bizarre. He thought throwing soap at the wall when he stayed in a hotel was really fun and entertaining. Soap, like in a hotel that had a TV that he was staying in for one night, not a windowless prison where he was forced to use his meager supply of toiletries to amuse himself. Story 26. I'm surprised I haven't seen this one yet. Goes out to eat for every meal. My fiance did this while we were dating. I thought he was just showing me a good time. Turns out he can't cook, even boxed mac and cheese. To his credit, he knows he's a man-child and it's endearing but also very taxing, so he's working on it. Story 27. Flipping out over menstrual cycle. Once knew a guy who would act so disgusted whenever any female in the vicinity mentioned periods. Could be a girl asking another girl to check her pants for blood spots or a girl complaining about cramps. He couldn't stand to hear anything about them. When I would be moody on my period, he would say things like, "That time of the month again?" And I would say, "Yes." And he would start talking about how he didn't want to hear that and it was disgusting. Like, dude, you brought it up. This was also a guy who loved talking about how blackout drunk he got, how he would throw up everywhere and once shat his pants at a party and thought it was awesome. This was a man who was at least 21. I'm okay with guys being uncomfortable around periods since it's a pretty foreign concept to them. But this guy liked complaining about how gross periods were more than I liked complaining about how painful my periods were, which is saying something. Story 28. Treating service workers poorly. A waiter or a waitress in a restaurant is on their feet all day, not the one making your food, usually not getting paid a decent hourly wage, might be having an off day and has to deal with enough bullshit. Treating someone poorly is just the biggest red flag I have. Story 29. Somebody that absolutely won't prioritize and budget their money wisely. My ex-roommate was quick to spend his money on gambling, beer, and cigarettes, but always cried poor when it came time to pay rent, along with his share of the household bills, and bugged his mom like crazy to give him money every single time. His mom was well off. Story 30. Will only clean what mess he makes. Oh, you made dinner? Clean the dishes you used? I'll wash my drinking glass since I filled it. Or he can't be wrong, misunderstood, misspeak, or not hear something correctly. I never said that. That's not something I say. Not seeing something from a different perspective, like picking your battles. A Mario Kart race is not worth throwing and destroying a controller. No money bet on a game, just felt cheated. We can't play certain games because he gets aggressive when he loses or others are in the lead and complains all up until he wins at the end, does shit to other people in the game that if done to him, he would throw a tantrum. Story 31. They are always telling you to let go the inconsiderate things they do instead of owning up to them. Like it's not their fault they're being an to you, you just need to not get so angry about it. Nothing is ever the man-child's fault, especially since he has his whole life ahead of him to grow and learn from all the faults he refuses to admit he has. The man-child has no need for future plans. He goes with the flow, and any attempt at suggestion that maybe a 30-year-old adult should at least have a vague idea of what they want to do with the next at least year or so of their lives is swiftly met with accusations of being controlling or pushy or uptight. When confronted with a fault that is undeniable, he lashes out at you for something you did years ago, or perhaps he just makes up something on the spot or simply uses something positive as a negative. For instance, you just made breakfast, but because he's mad at you for pointing out something he didn't feel like acknowledging, he claims that you never make breakfast and the fact that you did doesn't count because you never do. In fact, accusations involving definitives such as never are constant. You never do anything. You never clean anything. You never do what I tell you to, etc. You're always never doing something, and on the off chance that you do, it doesn't count because you never do it. Story 32. When he discusses me moving in. We can move into the attic above my parents' house. That way we save money and it will feel homely. Me, wouldn't it be better if we moved in with my parents since they have a whole empty apartment? Or we could buy a cheaper flat and that will be more private. I don't like you or your mom's foreign cooking. Nope. I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna mummy you and neither is my mother. Story 33. Obviously trying to manipulate your feelings by making you feel bad about something. Little passive-aggressive guilt trips drive me insane. If you want something, just ask. Communicate your feelings like a big boy. Story 34. Can't do anything past surface level cleaning. Everyone has to do dishes or take out the trash at some point. But I'm talking about vacuuming, mopping, dusting, windows, clean surfaces, etc. Cleaning your place is one of those things you don't have to do. Whether or not he does it shows how much responsibility he's willing to take on himself. It's a big indicator of being able to sacrifice momentary pleasure and fulfill obligations, which is necessary for a well-functioning adult. Story 35. Sees nothing wrong with living with his parents after 30. No motivation beyond immediate wants. No long-term plans for finances or career. Video game addiction, i.e. prioritizing time and money on gaming over real-life interactions and obligations. Nothing wrong with video games. I enjoy them too, but all things in moderation, right? Sadly, these are all describing the same friend. I've known him since high school and he hasn't really matured in all that time.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this next video. The YouTube algorithm really thinks you like it.